Welcome to the University of Manchester's Economists Talking About series. In this episode, we will be interviewing Dr. Ron Chan, who has studied in Hong Kong, Canada, and the US, and is now a lecturer and program director for the BA Economics course at the University of Manchester. To begin, Dr. Chan, could you tell us a little more about yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to speak today. As Arushi said, my name is Ron Chen. I'm a senior lecturer of environmental economics at the University of Manchester. So a little bit of my research. My research is mostly about air pollution and climate change these days, and basically trying to understand the interaction between different types of markets and how they have the interplay between them, and what kind of policies that we can do to mitigate the negative impact of pollution and like hotter weather and so on and so forth, and quantifying the impacts on the economy.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Chan. So to start off with the questions, I understand that you've studied in Hong Kong, Canada, and the US, and now you currently teach in the UK. So what do you think the major differences are, academic and otherwise, between these countries?
So this is a wonderful question. I think that it's kind of interesting that I've been to so many places. Of course, I was raised in Hong Kong, so of course I know a little bit more about the system in Hong Kong. I Hong Kong is kind of weird, as you might know that. Of course, Hong Kong was a British colony, so Hong Kong actually share quite a lot of similarities with the UK. However, the education system is very American driven. Even though when I was doing my study in Hong Kong, it was a 3-year undergrad, which is the same as the UK, most part of the UK. So, but then in terms of the way that things are taught and the things that are organized, it's very much like the American system. So maybe let me, for the listeners who are not very familiar with the difference between US and the UK system, let me be very briefly. Basically, UK system, it's of course a 3-year, but UK system is a kind of a very for 3 years, so there's not much general education opportunities, and you kind of dive into whatever you sign up for or in year one. But during this course in the UK, students get quite a lot of free time or free things to explore. So a lot of self-study is required in the UK, whereas in the US, you have this general education system where in the first year or two, you don't specialize until the last 2 years. But the modules themselves are very intense. So you expect a lot more homework, so less self-study, which is basically, okay, you have to turn in an assignment every week or every 2 weeks. So it's quite different. Where Hong Kong is the same system when I was doing it, and then it was kind of in the US it was but then even though it was a 3-year thing, but then every module we get to kind of a lot of problem sets or a lot of midterms and so on. So usually when I first came here, when students here struggle a lot with the workload, I was kind of thinking, okay, I've got way harder life than you do when I was a student. Of course, lives are different between now and then, but still, Canada was like the US as well. So this is kind of the education system. In terms of lifestyle, I think the US is kind of more intense, like because you just too much work, whereas in the UK, you can kind of get to enjoy like being a student and so on, because there's less intense. And so I kind of like UK, and Canada would be a bit between US and UK, even though the system is pretty much like the US. But Canada is a little bit more laid back in terms of the lifestyle. So I think I've been here for long enough now. So I think, I quite enjoy the life in the UK. A little bit less intense, not just the students, but also in terms of my workload compared to my colleagues in the US. So So yeah, so I think a lot of differences. Of course, food is different, right? And so Hong Kong's food, obviously, there's there's no rival, not no rivals, not no rivalry to that. But yeah, it's a different lifestyle. I think some people prefer to be stressed out, I guess, all the time. But yeah, but I guess yeah, we could nowadays it's good for me to us to take a step back and yeah, enjoy enjoy the life being a student and yeah, or living here.
Right. And on the topic of education and studying, what motivated you to do a postgraduate degree and a PhD?
So when I first, so I think to answer this question, I have to first start to why I study in, or so in Hong Kong I study economics and finance in my undergrad, and actually when I first wanted to start my my university, actually I wanted to do physics and astronomy. But then I was not brave enough to convince my parents that this is a good kind of job or job prospect. It's going to be good, especially in the context of like Hong Kong society and economy. So then at the end, I'm always fascinated by like in some sense kind of the applied math angle where I think it would be it's kind of beautiful to some degree. I mean, a lot of people would disagree with this statement, but some people would think that it's kind of beautiful when you apply rather than doing a lot of abstract math, but apply math to solve some issues in different regards. So that's what I got me interested in like physics at the beginning. But then I thought, okay, economics, as it turns out, that is also a very technical or subject, or it's also kind of demonstrate how we can apply math in this sense. So I think that might be one of the reasons that I thought, okay, turns out that I could also have a research career in economics. At that time, I thought it was just more like a business degree. I haven't thought much about research, but my professors in my undergrad institution, he motivated me to do research quite a lot and asked me to always think about, do you think this is maybe something that you like to do? And yeah, that fascinated me. Uh, and then and then as I mentioned earlier, I was an environmental economist. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to do a research career is also because of the environmental problems that I see in Hong Kong and I face. I remember what really got me motivated was one of these undergrad research projects that I was doing in Hong Kong. In that project, I was actually looking at air pollution and tourism because in one of the newspaper clipping, it actually showed that when the air pollution is high, there are more people visiting Hong Kong, right? That doesn't make much sense, right? So which kind of got me interested in like understanding. Of course, once you tease out all these like confounding factors, as we learn in an economics degree, then of course then we found that air pollution is bad for tourism. But that's kind of got me. Oh, interestingly, yeah, a lot of these tools can actually be used to explain some of these like counterintuitive things that we might see on the news. So I think that all in all, I think that kind of got me interested. Yeah.
And just to finish off, do you have any advice for students that are at university now about how to get the most out of their degree?
Um, I think nowadays, I think of course, as a lecturer myself, I think we have to do a bit better job in kind of connecting the reality to what they really learn. But I think one of the things I would recommend students is to not don't afraid in taking into I think always question. That's a good thing. So in the sense that always question in the room that's like why am I learning this and all that and why and that becomes quite important. Um, and I think one of the interesting thing about the so I went to a workshop last week and I think one of our colleagues says something that I think we don't want to provide you an answer, but we actually wanted to provide you like a uh, um, think about things, right? So meaning that I don't want to give you an answer right away. I want you to like basically keep motivating you to ask questions. Maybe the second advice would be that going back to all the way comparing between UK and the US system, one of the first benefits of the US system is that it's very broad-based education in the first year. And I think I always encourage students to go beyond their specialism in expanding their horizon in doing that, because I think at least I think from my perspective, the first 3 years of university should not be specializing in one particular subjects, but to make sure that you have a very broad-based education where so that, because you don't know where you're going to end up, right? So I think it's important for you to get some skills like along the way, from like taking a course from politics, or taking a course from computer science and all that, right? If that allows you to do that, of course. But so I think that just explore what you think you might like here, and you might find some surprises.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your insight, Dr. Chan. Remember to come back next time for our next interview with another exciting economist.